Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Football Pundits episode on the Fantasy Premier League. Yes, I know we're a
It's
few weeks
back.
out from the first game week deadline, but it is back. It is officially live, and I am the most excited person. I love the FPL, and so does Annie. So do all of us. And we're going to get into today. We're going to look at some of the price changes, some of the positioning changes, how the strategy might work out due to these changes, and a couple of rule changes that have happened this season. And if you can start us off with the biggest rule change, the 90 minutes.
Yeah, so earlier the FPL deadline for a week was 60 minutes before kickoff. It has now been moved to 90 minutes. This was essentially done because of a lot of complaints, not just this year, but over the years, where there was possibility of, some managers apparently getting leaked lineups. And in general, now with Twitter and Instagram at where we are, those leaks are becoming more and more prevalent. So to keep it completely fair, I think it is a very good move. It is something that the community, FPL community, have been requesting, and it's finally been done. Apart from that, there's no major rule change as such. There is a possibility that the first wildcard available to use might end faster than it normally would be. That is because the Premier League season, of course, is starting late, and we only have so many games you can squeeze in before December, right? Apart from that, nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see when that first wildcard hits. But the biggest news, obviously, has been the changes in positioning. I mean, the biggest one, obviously, is probably Aubameyang is now a midfielder. There's obviously been a few others, but I think that's the big one, classified at 12 million. We'll get to the prices, obviously, in a bit. But just looking at a couple of the other ones, Annie, which one stands out to you? For me, it's Aubameyang, and the other one that appeals to me, the slightly off-center one, is Lundstrom. Lord Lundstrom, as us FPL, we call him, is now midfielder, and that will take away from so many of us.
I know, in fact, to be fair, okay, Kern, though, I think it's a very fair move. He was playing in midfield throughout the season. He started a bulk of the games, the first 25 games, apart from injury, right? He did start getting rotated out, but nothing to take away from the fact that he never played as a defender. It's the same as Richie. Richie also has been moved from defender very fairly to midfielder because that's where he plays for Newcastle. For me, the one that did bother me a little bit was Greenwood. I feel that young player playing out on the right may just play as a secondary striker coming season. With you never know who comes in for United in the summer, right? Could be Sancho, could be anybody. So I felt that was a bit premature. Not happy with that only because you also have Rashford now, who's a midfielder. So if I want to build a United cheap front three, the way we did last season and we all took advantage of it, not going to be possible this year. We'd really be blocking off other players from other teams to build a three coordinated player team, right?
Yeah, Greenwood obviously a big one. Moved from a budget forward of 4.5 to a 7.5 price midfielder. Martial is now a forward. Rashford is now a midfielder. So big changes there. Some of the other ones obviously are Richarlison from Everton, who's now a forward. We also have Fernandinho, Dier, and Sessegnon, who are now defenders, who probably now offer more value rather than as a defensive midfielder who are key to these teams. In the defense, they probably give us an option for the clean sheets. So maybe there's something better to have them there.
I don't know, Kern. The funny part is, I don't know if these players would again still be centre backs next season. I wouldn't be surprised with Mourinho and Pep strengthening in the back that Fernandinho eventually comes back as a holding midfielder. So it's interesting to see how both of those work out. It could actually work out great that they just play out a game as CDMs and get clean sheet points, right? In that matter,
Yes.
speaking. But in tactically, again, it could go either way. So.
Yeah. Again, interesting one. And I'm sure all of this, our first selections obviously will be very varied by the fixture list that comes out. That's supposed to come out soon as well, later on this week. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for. I'm going to move on to Annie now, team selection for this season, because with especially Aubameyang coming into the midfield and the pricing that we've seen, 12 for Auba, 12 for Salah, 12 for Mane, De Bruyne is up there, Sterling's there, Pulisic has been priced higher. How does one tackle this season now, man? It's just premium midfielders galore.
In fact, I was actually about to tell you, I definitely agree that the pricing has made things very, very confusing. It's definitely tougher on the onset of it. The way I see it is for managers who really like to have a differential mindset, this could be finally the season for you. especially when it comes to formation. I'll come to formation later. Let's talk about just the price points right now. I think the only way you offset that kind of price, heavy midfield price, if you look at your lower midfielders, right? You still have a Mahrez who is the starter at 8.5. Pulisic at 8.5 himself is not the worst price curve, nor is Ziyech at 8, right? Willian at 8 will definitely be starting for Arsenal. You have cheaper midfielders. What I do feel, which is exciting for me, is not like every year, like last year, how you had either Salah Mane in your team or Salah De Bruyne for sure in your team, and maybe Aubameyang as your forward. Now you won't have all three of those players in your team. So everyone's going to have to pick and choose how they work around that. And I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be way more competitive. But yes, it is much more difficult to structure your midfield for sure.
Yeah, I think 3-5-2 is going to be a lot more popular this season. I think because of so many premium options in midfield. How do you leave out any one of them, right? I think, I've already tried to build my team. I've already built my team, in fact, at least the first draft of it. And right now, in there's De Bruyne. We've obviously not touched upon the big midfielder yet. Bruno Fernandes's price has gone up.
Yep.
He's now at a 10 plus. He's in the premium bracket now.
Yep.
Right now, my team only has place for De Bruyne and Fernandes, and no Salah yet, no Mane in there. But where there is some sort of, good returns available is the forward line, right? We have a Werner available at a 9.5. We have a Martial available at a 9. These are some sort of options. And obviously, there's then a Guerrero, the king of FPL, available at 10.5, which
I was about to say,
it might be a bargain.
last season, we noticed all managers, FPL managers, including us, drifted away from the strikers, apart from Aubameyang in the last couple of games, because the returns just weren't coming. Jesus did not step up for managers, even apart from I think 2 big game weeks. So we decided to go for 5 in the midfield, right? 5 midfield options. This season, again, I feel the trend will, like you mentioned, will be there, where now more than ever, a 3-5-2 is something that will probably be the norm because you have Werner at 9.5, you have Kane at 10.5. 10.5 for Kane for me is a steal. I would definitely hope so. I don't know how he starts the season normally, but he's gotten over that hump, last season as well. The way I look at this is if you look at the way we started with a 3-4-3, very popular. I don't see us doing a 3-4-3 as FPL managers this year. What do you think? I would still prefer a 3-5-2 because if you want a good premium midfielder in there, defender in there, like a Virgil van Dijk from Liverpool, who was a 6 last year, is himself a 6.5. All the really good options are kind of out of your range.
Yeah, I think the defense is also key here. Also, good news for Harry Kane owners or prospective Harry Kane owners is that he doesn't score in August, right? But the league doesn't start in August this year. So, hey, that jinx is broken right there. But in the defense, obviously, you have someone like a Trent Alexander-Arnold who's 7.5. But for me, at 7.5, still is value. I keep trying to saying this that if he were a midfielder at 7.5, giving the attacking returns as he does, you would bring him in your team regardless. But he's a defender who also brings you the clean sheets points. So for me, that is one which will come in. But where the big difference now for me, Annie, is the goalkeepers. All your good goalkeepers are 5.5 and above. Exactly. So that is going to be the big one, which is why I think key this season is going to be bargain hunting. And how I'm going to approach this season at least is I'm going to go look out and look at the teams that I think are going to do well this season and pick their players accordingly. So for me, the likes of, and Everton, I think under Ancelotti will do well defensively. Right? So I'm going to look at Everton defensive assets and see what bargain is there. Wolves have a couple of injuries, so Vinagre could become a good starting point for the season.
Yep. Johnny,
value in that defense.
Johnny is out for them, yeah.
Exactly. So he comes in there. I'm definitely going to look at a Sheffield United defensive asset, at least to begin with, because their defense has been solid. And now that Henderson is not there in goal, maybe the big points comes from the defenders itself, or maybe Ramsdale provides.
I have a feeling a lot of managers Colonel rush for Matt Ryan and McCarthy. I think the only 4.5 regular starters which they'll be comfortable with. And Mitrovic, little bit from the past, Fulham and Newcastle at 6 as a forward would also be a decent bargain of sorts, right? At 6, a forward is who starts. So yeah, you're right. I think it's good to
Uh,
look at bargains.
yeah, I think bargains are going to be the one, and that will then, you know, go how your formation works out, right? So if you get a really good bargain midfielder performing well, like your Cantwell last season, it becomes a 3-5-2. But if you get a really good bargain forward, that becomes your pick, right? So like some of the picks that I'm already looking at, for me, Leeds United, I think will do well. So I have Ailing, who's their fullback, who's there for me in defense, who I think will give a good bargain option. Newcastle, I think, ended the season well. So Alan Saint Maximin, you know, who was their only
5.5.
attacking output, it looked like, at 5.5, provides a great attacking option. From West Brom, who are coming up, Matheus Pereira provides a great asset. He had 8 goals and 16 assists for West Brom. You know, so he becomes a great option. And up front, Mitrovic, you know, from Fulham becomes a great asset with all his goals that he scored. So,
So
you know, I
it's
think
again,
that's the
but
one that's
Karan,
going to
it's a
be.
big one. We normally look at the players who come up from the championship, and they normally tend to let us down. Pookie and Cantwell again gave us hope in the first 15 games, but eventually we all saw how that ended. So definitely bargains is very important every season. But like you said, you know, the way I would still see sticking to a 3-4-3 would be because I can see myself taking Harry Kane at 10.5, maybe a Marshall at 9, and a Mitrovic and lower. So there are options to definitely take those strikers. But after last season, the way the strikers didn't give us those returns, people might still be a little wary, you know, trying to maybe keep those 3 strikers. But again, midfielders 5, difficult this season.
Yeah, I think the key this season is that a lot of managers are going to have to do a lot more research on stats, a lot of more deeper research to get those value options, as we're mentioning again and again, the budget picks to afford all the big hitters that you want. Uh, but hey, that's what we think. That's my first take on this.
Yep.
I'm excited to keep building on these FPL episodes as we always are. We're going to have some FPL specials, of course. We're going to bring in fans who have followed the championship to give you more insight on the championship picks. We're going to have some big hitters come in and give their strategy for the season, how
Yep.
you should build up. And we're also going to come with you regularly with your regular football news as always. So stay tuned to our episodes. Follow us on Twitter or on Instagram. Obviously, hit subscribe on our YouTube page, hit the bell icon so you get notified with all videos. And we'll see you in the next one.